Hello, everyone. I'm Barry Shealy. I'm Director of Learning for the Espaha Schools. And this is a basic overview and introduction to the MAP testing, primarily for those who are using it for the first time. So, we know that the better we know our students, the better we're able to help them learn. So we collect a lot of data to make sense of who our students are, how they learn, how to help them take that next step, and how they are progressing. One measure is the MAP growth assessment. And this is just one type of data that we use to help characterize student growth. We also have many other assessments. We have classroom assessments. We have assessments that come from our IB programs, or in the schools that have Cambridge programs, we have assessments there as well. So this is one type of measure. It focuses on basic academic skills and concepts primarily related to mathematics and English reading comprehension and language usage. Some of our schools also use the science assessment as well. It's based on, the content of the test is based on international version of the U.S. Common Core state standards. And according to both IB and Cambridge, these standards are consistent with the IB scope and sequence and Cambridge frameworks. Now, the key thing to remember is that this is a focus on basic academic skills and concepts. We go much beyond the basics, but if a student has challenge or has a difficulty with these basic skills, it can impact their ability to achieve in the higher order skills that we expect. IBO notes that the IB scope and sequence focuses on approaches to learning and teaching and learning. And this is particularly in the PYP, while curriculum frameworks like the Common Core focus on knowledge and skills. Both of these are needed. With the IB, particularly in the lower grades, there's flexibility on the curriculum frameworks that you use. And so this, again, we understand that IB and Cambridge include objectives that go far beyond basic skills. But this is just a measure of those basic skill development in English language and in mathematics. Now, what do we do with this data? This is not an end of course test or a summative evaluation like you would have with the Cambridge checkpoints or with the DP program, the exams at the end. It's mainly geared towards earlier grades, and it's diagnostic data that's particularly powerful for young learners. It allows us to monitor student growth and progress on basic skill and concept development. It allows us to identify learning challenges where individual students need additional support. And sometimes, the needs on this level can be fixed, they can be corrected and supported early on, but if they're not, they can cause students difficulty with the higher order standards, the more challenging expectations that we have. They also inform curriculum and instruction for us. If there's a certain area that we find that students on a particular level are not achieving well, we need to ask the question about why is that? Are these objectives that are not as important for us for whatever reason we've chosen not to emphasize? or are they areas that we have neglected, or are they areas that we need to change the way we address them, the way we focus on them? And so that's the way we're using this, is primarily diagnostic data to help primarily the students grow, but also the teachers in the school grow as well, if needed. So for the next part of this video, I want to talk about the types of resources that NWEA provides for teachers and how you access your students' results. So you're going to log into your NWEA assessments account and to access your results. This would be the same login that you used when you proctored, and so you're going to see a dashboard. Now note that my dashboard is going to have much more than you would have because I have district level access. So I'm going to go to Map Growth Reports over here on this side. And you're going to see a list of reports that are available to you. Now, I will mention, in some cases I've noticed where teachers have had difficulty having access or seeing data in here. And sometimes that's because their account was set up only as a proctor and not as an instructor. Or if they were set up as an instructor, they weren't attached to a class. One place I've seen that is when the classes were set up to include all of the students in a particular grade level rather than attaching the students to their class. So when there were multiple teachers teaching a grade level, only one teacher was attached to those students. Now, if that's the case, you can still see the data, but the teachers on that grade level will all have to log in and look at the one teacher's account. Now that can be adjusted in the future, and you can work on that with your MAP coordinator on your campus. Okay, so for your reports over here, you're going to go to your growth reports, and on the left you're going to see the levels of reports that are available to you. You should have student level and class level reports available to you. And then you're going to see the class level reports, including the class report, which I'm going to look at in just a moment. And then some other reports that allow you to track students' growth or understand their growth, understand the areas where MAP is suggested they may need additional help. And also understand how their achievement compares to their growth as well. What they might be ready to learn next, what they might need additional help before that. But this is all on a class level. And then the other type of report that you're going to look at are student level reports. And these are the most powerful for you. The student profile is going to be what you will be most interested in looking at. They'll give you a lot of interest or information. A lot of information about your student. The family report is designed to communicate to families. Now, one thing to be careful about is to remember that the MAP is oriented or designed to document growth. And so the first time a student takes the MAP, they're not going to have the data to show growth. And so some parts of that report are going to be blank. And some parts of that report are only going to refer to comparison to other students in other parts of the world to them. So a parent may be confused. They may see the only thing they see in mathematics is that the student scored on the 28th percentile, and they might think, okay, well, that's a very low score. My student's failing or doing poorly, and that's not necessarily the case. And so I would be very careful sharing the family report with families the first time a student takes the test. Especially this year when in some of our schools grades are taking the test for the first time. The whole grade's taking the test for the first time. Now in the future, if you have new students, I would just encourage the teachers to be careful in parent conferences to explain what these results mean. But you'll also see student progress reports, student goal setting, and so forth, just that help you know how you can support individual students. And so the next thing I want to do is look at some of these reports and talk about some of the things that you see there. Now note that when you, in your dashboard, when you create a report, it's going to ask you to fill in some parameters for that report, and then it's going to generate the report. And there is a tab on the top for report queues, and that's where the report is going to appear, and then you'll download from there. When you download them, you'll have a PDF document that looks like this. This is a class report. Now, the first thing to understand about MAP is this RIT score, or REIT score. The number itself doesn't really mean anything. All it does is it provides a continuous scale to place students' performance on so that you can map their growth over a period of time, over the course of the year, and also over the course of multiple years. And so that's all it is. It's a scale. The number itself doesn't mean anything other than just showing a scale of continuous growth. Now, so you'll notice the mean and the median score for your class. You'll notice, if you know your statistics, standard deviation is a measure of how spread out your class is. You will see, once the testing window closes for all the SBH schools, you will see the average for all of the SBH schools. And so you can compare your class average to those in other schools. And then you'll also see a norm mean. So this is an average from all students who have taken the MAP in around the world, or in certain parts of the world, or particularly, which is going to be dominated by students in the United States. And so it gives you some indication of how you compare to other schools around the world, and particularly in the U.S. And then you're going to see a distribution of your students based on whether they're average, high average, low average, on the particular goal areas within the subtest. And you also see REIT scores for each of those goal areas as well. Now, the other thing to notice, let's look at the second page of the report, where you will have your students. Now you'll notice that there's actually a range on these scores, and that's just a statistical issue where when a student took a test today, they took under different conditions tomorrow, they might have a different score with the same understanding. And so what this does, it controls for that. While this one student scored a 188 for their REIT score in reading, in this case, the statistical analysis says that almost assuredly their true score is somewhere between 184 and 192. And then you have the percentile score. Percentile score, again, compares to other students outside of our context taking the test. There's also, with the reading comprehension score, there's a Lexile range, which I want to come back to this because I think this is a very valuable measure here. And then you will see how students did on the each of the goal areas within the subtest. And the bold numbers indicate they're achieving above average, above expectation. The non-italicized normal text indicates that they're right where you would expect them to be, and the italicized text indicates students who are performing below where you would expect them to. You will also have various reports related to students' growth and growth versus their achievement. So in these reports, they're going to be more valuable once you have multiple administrations of the test. So if they take it in the fall and then take it again in the spring, this is going to be much more valuable. It'll tell you what the growth was, what the growth would have been expected to be, and it'll also give you indication of ways that you could work on the growth with your class. Now, probably the most valuable report is going to be the student profile report. The student profile report is an individual report that's going to show you and compare growth and achievement, and also give you the scores and give you a lot of information about the student. For example, you'll see here there's this comment that Sadie's reading score could benefit from focus on informational text. So it identifies particular needs that a particular student may have. You also notice at the top, when you look at this online, you'll have tabs. The tab for the mathematics, for the reading, for the language usage, and if your school is using the science, you'll have that tab as well. There'll be a lot of information that you can click on and go to find suggested areas of focus. You can find relative strengths that the student has, and also advice for dealing with and helping and supporting this student. And there's a lot of information here that you can look at, right down to individual objectives, showing where students are right where they should be, where they need support, objectives that they are ready to learn, ready to approach, suggested goals for their growth, and so forth. So it's a very valuable report for you as a teacher. And also for you as a teacher as you're sharing with parents where your students are. So now the family report is going to look like this. It's designed to be sent to parents, and for each area, each subtext is going to have two boxes. It's going to have one box that describes the achievement. It's going to have a growth. It's going to have a chart that shows their scores on each time the test was administered to them. It's going to give a percentile based on these norms that have been developed from students taking the test with MAP across many schools, and it's going to have a little bit of a narrative. And then in the right box, it's going to give an assessment of the student's growth. It's going to give you graphs and so forth, and it's going to give a percentile which compares this child to other students' growth as well across others who've taken the MAP. Now, the first time that students take this test, the family report is going to be blank over here on the right, unless you have told the report to be printed with projections for, in this sample, they have the Ohio State test, but you could also have a SAT, ACT, and so forth. And that would be more interesting for older students. But otherwise, this block is going to be blank. And this block over here, the graph is only going to have one data point and this percentile. Now, if students are scoring on a very low percentile, if you have a student who scores, say, on the 28th percentile in mathematics, parents may look at that as saying, okay, well, this is a summative test, and this is a grade that my student is getting, which is not the case and not what this test is designed to be used for. And so you'll want to be careful with new students because parents may easily misunderstand this report. And so it's probably best to communicate this report in the within a parent conference. Other reports that you'll see for individual students will be progress reports, various progress reports. Now, I mentioned that we saw on this sample student report, you had this score called a Lexile score. Over on the student profile is right over here under readability measures. There's actually been a lot of work, a lot of research that's been done with these Lexile scores. You can rate books as to their Lexile level, and you can give students evaluations indicating the level at which they can most comfortably read at, and then their stretch or where they can read to be learning and improving. But a lot of research has also been done on these Lexiles to look at what level is needed for college study, for university studies, and also for different careers, like, for example, law, business, and so forth. And so out of that research has come a projection or a recommendation for the levels at which students should be reading at each grade level to make that progress towards being prepared for college and careers, for the university studies and for career studies. And so this is a valuable tool to use as students are developing their reading ability. Okay, so that is a quick summary, a quick overview of the MAP assessments that we use here at SPH as, again, just one piece of data, one particular type of data that can support us to knowing our students better and also helping us support them in learning and progressing. Okay, I hope that is helpful. I hope that you will collaborate with your other teachers, some of whom have more experience with MAP than others, and also look at these reports and learn to interpret them and know how to help students and how to help parents. Also, if you have challenges, you can approach your MAP coordinator for your campus. You can also get in touch with me to maybe I can provide a session to help you interpreting scores in different contexts. Okay, well, I'm praying for you all and respect you all. Teachers are awesome and important. It's a high calling that God has given you, and I'm praying for you each day.